Welcome to Investories, a podcast about real stories, real estate, and taking real action. Join hosts John Hooper and Kyle Robertson as they talk investing, mindset, and taking that first step. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories Podcast.
Welcome to the Investories podcast, and please excuse my voice. I'm a little bit croaky for some reason. Just me today. Kyle is traveling. He's at a mastermind. Go Kyle. Having a whale of a time, hopefully. And so a bit of a different one today, actually. Caught up with Jason Rash to talk money. It's a bit of a free-form conversation, and we really talk into the mindset around money, how to kind of make your money go further, or how to do a bit of a life laundry on your money and figure out where things are going, and start saving for that first investment. The conversation really came from that start point, in the fact that we all need to get started somewhere, and often there's always a bit of cash that's needed to be on hand to start investing, be that 100% seller financing, but refurbishing, or even just putting furniture into a short-term rental. All those things need to happen, and there's always that bit of cash that you need to have in reserves, and never more so at the current market, right? With the changes and the fluctuations in pricing, having a bit of cash on hand is going to be a real weapon going forward to invest, and probably will be asked for as well, depending on what happens with mortgages. Anyway, enough of my waffle. Please do give us a 5-star review, and I hope you kind of like this format, a little bit of a change up. If you want any more of this kind of stuff, if you're interested in this, please do reach out, investoriespodcast@gmail.com for questions or guest suggestions, and do hit us up on Instagram and all the other social channels. Investories Pod is where you can find us. And without further ado, here's Jason.
Record both of us, but I might have you get it on your end too, man. All right, I'm going to be quiet so you can do your intro, do your thing.
No, you're good. Welcome to Investories. Welcome back to Investories. Jason Rash. How you doing, Jason?
I'm fantastic, John. Thank you so much for having me back again for round two.
Nice. Yeah, so this came about, Jason and I were bothering each other on Messenger, and we were talking money and like getting your money right and figuring out how to invest. And a lot of people I speak to are like, oh, I want to invest, I have no money. So hence this conversation. So super excited to have you back, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me, John. And I think you're right and spot on point for starting it like this, because so many people want to be investors. They want to get in that real estate game, or they want to be, let's be clear, nobody with any real money is going to put all their money in stocks and Bitcoin right now. This market's going crazy. But a lot of people, they envision real estate is the holy grail, cue the angelic, right? But they never ever get there. And I love this conversation that we're starting off before you make that first initial investment, like what it takes to really let's back in that and see what that really looks like. I think that's fantastic. So thank you for having me.
No worries. Good to get you back on and get your take. And you're on what, property number 3,000 or something right now? So
we're on property number 3,287.
So let's spin it back in terms of getting that. For me, money is like, there's two pieces to it. One is very simple mindset, which is don't piss all your money up the wall on stuff, right? And start to tuck some away, and then start to get it working for you. And I don't know how to communicate that to people sometimes, because it sounds simple, but it's not.
I think a lot of people, what happens with their money is, like you said, a lot of people, they just put all their money away on stuff, or they're going to put their money, they don't know how to get it working for them. And let's be very, very clear. I was not taught any of this in school. Were you taught this in school?
No, none of it.
I mean, my teachers, it's very hard to learn. It's hard to learn from someone who's never done what it is you're trying to do. And it's amazing to me how many people follow, especially the younger generation, 20s, 30s, they follow mid-30s, they follow these people on Instagram. However, most of these people have never been successful in their entire lives. And so they're just throwing out, regurgitated theory stuff that they've never actually done. let me just be very clear for the audience members and everyone at home playing along on their board game. I have done this and I'm going to teach you how to do it. Number one, whenever I was in the motion of like, I saw investments as a future, but the timeline looked too far away. So I am focused on my immediate gratification now. I'm sure you know some people that are like that now too, don't you, John?
Yeah, that's me half the time, like, how do I get it now? How do I make that work now? But the shift for me was to take a step back and say, if like I'm looking at something, I want to buy it. If I buy that, what's the knock-on effect? What are the variables? We're looking at cars at the moment, and I'm like, well, if I buy a car over here, that impacts my credit rating. The down payment of a car absorbs potential investing. So it's that delaying gratification, but then figuring out that knock-on of that process.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing, John. I think what you're going to have to think about is this, right? So it really comes down for most people is like the stuff that they have, right? A lot of people, all right. So here's what I really think. I live in a future tense. I'm always living in the future tense of myself, the better self of who I can be, right? And the way I see money is like it's just a vehicle and a tool. But before, whenever I was going nowhere, I saw it as a way to acquire stuff, a way to acquire status, a way to acquire notoriety, or favor with other people. Hey, I bought this new car, I got this new iPhone, and it sounds so dumb saying it now, man, because I could care less. I got like a 3-year-old iPhone. Will I upgrade on tomorrow when they drop the new one? Probably not. Just being real, it's not going to happen. But I mean, at the same time, back in the day, that was all I had. It's like, I got this new iPhone, yes. And then we're talking about the iPhone 4, by the way. When I switched from BlackBerry to iPhone 4 back in 2011, I've got the iPhone 4, and all these people did. Oh my God, let me see it, right? But now nobody, whatever, right? And so, it was the flex back then. It was like immediate gratification. But I think for anyone to get to that first property or to those first rentals, it's going to take a mindset shift. It's the first thing I think we need to discuss on this thing, because money is all about the mindset shift. There's people out there. There's certain segments of people out there that feel that looking rich is like the greatest thing ever. And I've met a billionaire. Let me tell you, wouldn't even know he was worth $1 billion. And I don't say that to brag or flex for anybody in the audience. I'm just telling you, you would never know this man was worth $1 billion. It's pretty incredible. And so it has to do with your mindset. And, I think going back to, let me ask you, John, how old are you? You're about 35, right?
No, I wish. No, I'm like 41.
He's like, no, I wish I was 35. But
I miss those days.
Yeah. If I only knew then what I knew now. Let's think about this for a moment. What was your mindset like in your early 20s? Because I'm gonna tell you what mine was like. Number one, it was like I'm working for $10 an hour. Okay, I go to the bar. I spend $100 in 4 hours. So I spend the whole night at the bar. I spend $100. I spent what took me that took me 10 hours to make. I lost it in 4. That pretty much explains my entire mindset in my 20s. What about you?
Mine was like crazy lifestyle creep. So. I earned fairly good money, left college, and then that kind of kept going up. But then I'd go to Vegas and get a nicer car and rent a nicer place and stuff like that. So that was probably till my 30s. And then I got some money together that was enough for a house. And I actually, rather than blowing it on like a dream car or like just going crazy, I actually bought a property in the UK, and that was my first shift in mindset. That was like,
smart man.
Okay, well, I can either burn through this or I can go and park it somewhere. And so I actually didn't buy that investment necessarily to invest and do cash flow analysis. I bought it to have as a piece of land, or have as a property that would, not mean I'm not spending all my money on stuff I don't need or stuff I won't want in 6 months' time, like an iPhone and stuff like that. So it was that was the first kind of, I'd say, a micro shift. That I was living in reality of like, okay, I don't think I should just burn this on a car or burn this on a load of holidays or vacations or whatever. And then the biggest shift for me was probably when I was 30, 34, 35, moved to the US and basically had to start from scratch financially. So I don't think I've told this story on the podcast, but I moved here. I probably had like less than 10 grand in the bank, and I couldn't work. So I couldn't work for 6 months. I had to live off that savings, had to pay rent, all that good stuff, had to rebuild everything, rebuild my credit rating, rebuild everything. And in that 6 years, just building kind of what we built so far, that was really interesting to have to go through that process. It was cool, like a load of re-education and also a bit of a reset. It's kind of nice, kind of refreshing.
I bet you don't want to go through that again, though, do you?
Not the credit card where you have to put money on it every week. So here's a funny story that I went on a work trip when I did get a job. I went on a work trip, and I didn't have a high enough credit limit to put the transaction on my hotel on the credit card on the work trip. I had to get one of my coworkers to pay for my hotel room and then expense it because I literally didn't have the above $1,000 credit limit on my account.
That's wild, man. That's wild. I think to be very honest with you, man, this came up for me as you were telling me this. Number one, the lifestyle creep thing is real, but I think for the younger generation, that's going to have to ever make the play. Like the moment I made the first play was when I realized stuff didn't matter. I think that's the very first key takeaway in this whole entire thing. Whenever you get to that level that stuff doesn't matter, that you can live without all the stuff, that's whenever you can invest. My wife hasn't really gotten to that level yet because I'm trying to sell my car. But I'm like, I'll drive my 2011 Kia, but she wants me to drive a $110,000 car that I drive now. So don't sell it. I'm like, I kind of want to sell it. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying like you get to this spot mentally in your mind where you're like, okay, none of this matters. All I want to do is build a lifestyle, because you could start to see the future coming faster and faster and faster. I was doing some analysis today, some cash flow analysis. And on my first property, and I'll be talking about this in my webinar that I'm going to be releasing here in the next month, but I'm making like 65% return. Another house I bought, I'm making like a 78% return on my money in just the first year. It's incredible. It's incredible due to appreciation, due to cash flow, due to tax benefits. It's absolutely wonderful, man. But again, most people, and this is the thing with a lot of people that want to invest, they don't realize that the situation they're in immediately. So they're always price crunched trying to do something to get out of the current situation they're in. This is why so many people invest in Bitcoin, like as quote unquote their windfall. Now, if you put $1,000 a month in there, putting $1,000 a month in stocks, sure, I'll do that. Sure, I do that, man. I'll put like $1,000 a month in stock. But if I lose it all, I lose it all. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to go home and cry about it, right? It's not my life savings. But I mean, I was at the Whole Foods about a year back, and the dude was talking about, he's like talking to the bag boy, and he's like, hey man, I'm taking all my savings and I'm putting it in Bitcoin and it's going to go to the moon. I'm like, dude, I feel really sorry for you right now. He's probably hurting right now. But it's just because they're looking for a windfall to change their current economic state right now. They're not thinking about the future. That's like no future investment with most people that want to be in the investor arena.
That's really interesting, and I think that's one of the shifts we're going to see in crypto, certainly in Bitcoin. You're gonna get these like pump and dump coins where they just rocket to the moon, then drop out. But unless you're on the inside, it's very tricky to predict that move. And then with Bitcoin, we're going to see, people are screaming for it to be more traditional, more aligned to how stocks are, and with that is going to be the performance. So there's volatility up and down quite a lot at the moment, and that's going to calm, which means it's going to be less volatile dropping through the floor, but it's also going to be less volatile for these runs up to crazy numbers. So I think we talked about this before, but like just dollar cost averaging, like you said, putting some money in every month and putting in money that you're not afraid to lose is kind of one way to look at it. Or it drops and you're not afraid for it to drop. I think I've talked on the podcast about my daughter has a S&P 500 index fund that I buy for her every single month, and it goes up and it goes down, and it's 20% down over her 2-year lifespan. But you know what? When she's 21, that thing's going to be worth a fortune, and it's $150 a month.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. To be very honest with you, it's having the wherewithal to see the future. I think that's the second point that we want to talk about here on this podcast, is that if you want to be an investor, you got to be able to see the future. You can't be sucked into everything that's on Instagram. You can't be feeling jealous whenever someone has something on Instagram or Facebook that you don't. And you got to understand, most of the stuff on the Instagram is fake. Like most of it's fake. It's 50 Cent could pull out all of his money in the middle of a bankruptcy trial just to look hot on Instagram. Most of it's fake. Most people rent Lamborghinis. Most people rent private jets. That's the first thing that people need to understand, that most of it's fake, right? The second part is that it's like, hey, listen, does any of this really matter in the long run? Does any of it really matter? And I feel like most of it doesn't. From where I'm at in my life, I mean, I'm 45 years old. I think if we're going to speak to the people that want to be investors, John, I think what we should do is back this thing up for a second. And I think we should talk about the actual first step. What do you think the first step here in this entire vision is?
I can tell you, right? It's know where your money is. So that's the biggest tip I can give anyone, and it's a constant process. So for instance, like here's a simple way to do it. What are all the microtransactions that you're paying for every month that you don't even know? They just fly under the radar. And you can do that with something like Mint, or you know what, freeze your credit card and see what transactions ping up in your email saying, oh, someone tried to do this, someone tried to do that. And you'll see all those like, oh, Netflix. Well, I haven't used Netflix for 3 months. I'll cancel that. And actually you just trap the transactions. So that's one thing that worked for me. The other thing, and this goes back to our interview last week with David, which is pay yourself first. And this is I'm going to give you the strategy of how my wife and I bought a house within 4 years of me touching down in the country, one of the most expensive markets in the world, on pretty good but not like stunning salaries. What we did is we paid ourselves first. We cut back on all our expenses. Our cars we had were loaners from family, completely paid off. But you know, the same principle if you bought a car for a couple of grand 5 years ago, right? We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in a buzzy but reasonably priced area, so we could walk everywhere, go out for dinner, that kind of stuff, but not sweat it. We paid ridiculously low rent because of that. And we still traveled. So travel was a high priority. We take a lot of, we rein back a lot of spending, but not things like travel. That's super important to us. But we paid ourselves first. And that meant every single month, at least $2,000 from our paychecks went into an account every single month. And if you, yeah, go for it.
Pause right there. On that moment right there, what does that require for you to be able to do that? Like I know somebody right now is going to listen to this podcast that, well, I don't have $2,000 to put into an account every single month. Like what is that right there? That right there that forces you to do that. Like that's what I think the first thing that so many people miss. You see what I'm saying? Like they're so in the weeds of where they're at. Like, well, I can't do that, but yeah, they got a $5 latte at Starbucks, right? I can't put 2,000 or 200 even. Let's say 200 just to make this like super relatable, right? I can't even put $200 back a month, right? And I'm like, sure you can. I bet you if I audited everything, you go, well, you know, I need that, right? I need that cup, I need Starbucks, or I need that Netflix, or I need this, or I need that. So
and you've nailed it. You've nailed it. You've got to ask the question, do you really want it? Do you want to own a house? Do you want to invest? Do you want to, I mean, it may be a new car. Do you want a new car? What's crazy is the system here is, and the loan products for housing is phenomenal here. I'm blown away by it every time I speak to a loan officer, all these different products and different ways of buying and all that good stuff. But that goes into then the car market, right? So you can then just go and get, I don't know, like you say $100,000 car, but you know, I could go and qualify for like a $70,000 car. It's nuts. Right. Like, really? And it's the problem with that is, and the reason I call that out is because qualifying for property on the whole goes up in value, and it depends on markets, and it depends on areas and the cycle you're in and all that good stuff, right? And how you buy it. Cars, for instance, which is probably the second biggest expense for people, tend to go down in value. And I know we're in a bit of a bubble right now with the used car market, but you get this financing that's it's almost like a home loan. You can get some products for 7 years. You're tying into that payment for 7 years. So people don't necessarily think about that. They kind of just exist on it and go, oh, it's fine. It's only $500 a month, but $500 a month for 7 years is a lot of money, and it's a lot of commitment. It's essentially a house. Yeah, absolutely. It's a rolling house is what it is, man. Yeah. I love your first point. You have to want it, man. You got to want it. So I think, you know, it's people like, but what would make an individual to buy a car for 7 years, right? So I'm going to tell you, this is going to probably blow you away. I put my car on a 7-year loan. No, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a financial decision, right? Right, but it's not like I can't afford it, right? So the question boils down to why, because the car guy was asking me the same thing. He's like, why are you doing this, dude? You know you're going to pay a lot in interest. And I was like,
yeah. And he's like, but why would you do that if you could pay cash for this, or at least you could afford it for 3 or 5 years, right? And I was like, because I can make the money somewhere else and just have it pay for my car. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. But if you don't
so,
have that, if you don't have that money to invest in the first place, then how are you going to generate that? Unless you're a guru, creative financing, zero, all that good stuff. It's awesome and it's so worth learning, but that shouldn't be plan A. You need a plan A of like a little bit of cash to start things rolling.
Right. So let's do this. Let's do this. So like you talked about the cash to get things rolling. So how do we how important is it to see that? First of all, like you're gonna have to make money outside your job in this economy. Like I think it's imperative to have a side hustle in this economy because it goes back to you got to want it. If you're at a W-2 job, trying to invest or trying to get ahead is going to be tough. Like in this economy, it's just going to be tough because your paycheck, your raises will not outrun inflation. It just will not outrun it. And your employer is not going to give you that much. You go to your employer tomorrow and ask them for a $10,000 a month raise. He's going to be, you're crazy to go ask him for $1,000 or $500 a month raise. He's going to think you're crazy. But if you start a side hustle, you can eventually get that thing to $10,000. It may take a few years, but I think we're going to be in a few years of this funk or whatever we're in for the next 3 to 5. To be honest with you. So let's talk about that, man. Like how important is it to have a side hustle in this economy right now?
Yeah, I can't answer that if I'm honest, but I think it's not a bad idea from a diversification standpoint, right? As layoffs happen all the time, companies shift, companies move, right? Or people are being called back into the office, and so having a side hustle isn't a bad way to go. I think if it can be a passion. So for instance, I used to do copywriting a lot and I'm a big fan of writing, enjoy it, all that good stuff. So now I just talk to people. But that was always a good side hustle for me, fairly good money and a good way to chip away. Actually, that was my job when I moved here, that I couldn't actually work in the US, but I had clients in the UK that I could legally work for. Right. So I could work for them in the UK, pay tax in the UK, and then bring the money out.
I love it. So where are we taking this thing?
Well, I think one thing I did want to bring up, and this goes to the car payment thing, is and any other form of payment, right? Every time you swipe your card or take some credit or whatever for a monthly subscription, there's this thing called debt to income ratio, and it's a huge lever when they're qualifying you for a loan, regardless of whether it's an investment or your primary residence. And keeping that in check, keeping that below 50% is another like golden kind of rule of buying that first house. And it may be you can still get something with a higher interest rate, but to get that solid payment and to get that solid kind of approach, you need to keep your spending down. So again, another reason that these kind of high payments isn't the best way to go. Like, I think the advice I got from a buddy of mine who does loans was buy the house first, then buy the car. And it can be soon after, but just buy the house first. Because as soon as you buy that car, they're going to look at your outgoings and go, "Oh, you got this 500 every month or whatever that looks like."
Yeah.
And all the way back, we're back to delayed gratification, right, Jason?
Correct. It all goes back to delayed gratification, right? Buy the house first and then buy the car. I mean, I do. So first of all, I came from the trailer park. And you have to understand, man, there's a lot of people in the trailer park that buy cars that are far more expensive than their trailer, like far more expensive, right? What causes that? Like what causes that? It goes back to the mindset, right? So, whenever I left the trailer park, the only reason I left the trailer park, thank God, was that there was drugs being sold next door and there was a prostitution ring on the other side. And then we had a little girl that was just born. I was like, nope, we're out of here. We ain't raising her in this. I don't care what I got to do, but I ain't doing it here. I just was ready to roll. And then, I think, we moved to the next level and then moved to the next level and moved to the next level. But there's a lot of people out there, like I said, man, they can't delay that gratification. They're always thinking like, I got to have this. Or this new pair of shoes is going to solve my problem. This new car is going to solve my problem. This new iPhone is going to solve my problem. This new Fit's going to solve my problem. Whatever it may be, they're feeling like that whatever they purchase is going to solve their problem whenever they just need to focus on and get going on their thing, right? So like, for instance, houses. Right? I've got a 30-year loan. Like it's going to take a long time for me to see that return. And a gentleman the other day asked me, he said, he was like, hey man, when you get paid on your homes, like when do you make money on your homes? Because I haven't taken any money out. And he's like, well, you say you're making $500 a month on this, but you're telling me you're not taking any of it out. And I said, that's right. He said, well, when do you take it out? And I said, well, when do you put money in your 401k and you get to take it out to eat on it? And he was like, well, 40 years, 35 years. I said, that's about the same with me, but I control all of it. I have no desire to take it out. And it's delaying that gratification, and he was like, well, when do you actually eat off the money? And I said, the moment you can't produce. The moment you can't produce and I can't go out and I can't create new income or I can't run my companies is the very moment I'm like, all right, sign some documents, cash all this stuff out, cash out refi, bring in millions of dollars, all of it, hundreds of millions of dollars, all at once. Like I got $200 million I'm sitting on, you know what I mean? But until then, I'm just going to keep producing, keep doing, keep building, keep going, keep rolling.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? So I'm a big fan of watches, and it's an expensive expensive hobby, right? So I'm actually not wearing one today.
What's the biggest, most expensive watch you bought? I'm curious.
I bought a Panerai. That was quite expensive.
Give me numbers, man. I don't know what quite.
That was like, well, it's not crazy money, but it was like 6.
Okay, that's not bad.
But I sold it for a profit. So here's the reason, right?
Good for you.
So here's the reason. I got like a couple of watches that I loved, and love's a strong word, but enjoyed. And this is shiny object syndrome, right? Couple of weeks in, you're like, is this doing it for me anymore? And so I'm like, nah. So I just sold what I had, basically, because it wasn't serving me. What's it doing? It's pretty. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's a bit like, going to a track day for a Porsche. I enjoyed driving it. It's not quite for me right now. So what I did was I sold a bunch of watches. I actually bought one that I love, which is a lot cheaper. And I can happily jump in the sea with it and all that good stuff. It's still a good brand. But what I promised myself was, when I get to a point that I feel is the point, and when I have a steady, passive is a strong word, but a steady investing income coming in, then that's when I'll treat myself to whatever I want. So what's cool now is I now just window shop. So I'm like, oh, I'm looking at this, but maybe I like this, but this is more money. Okay, so I'm going to have to earn this much to buy that. And I feel really good about it. So probably 6 months ago, I was like, I'm going to sell my property in the UK and I'm going to bring the money over here and invest. And I was like, oh, I'm going to treat myself, but I'm not now. I'm not going to treat myself to a watch. I'm going to build and keep going. And it's really hard to have that, to readjust that wiring, to delay. But, we're seeing it now. We bought the Airbnb up in Big Bear, and it's legit to own that and see it flourish. And it started to bring in money, and people are enjoying it, and we're getting 5-star reviews and all that good stuff. So that's now way more interesting than any kind of timepiece on my arm, and I'm happy to shop on the lower luxury level than to like flex with a loan on my wrist, going, oh look, I've got this. It's like, so what, man?
I got this. I got this, mate. No, what's crazy? No, but at least you admit it, man. I got a friend of mine. He's a real estate investor. He's got 75 homes. He's pulling probably about $45,000, $50,000 in a month in passive income, literally on top of his job. Literally and that's just from the cash flow. That's not any cash out refis. He may do a cash out refi on 4 or 5 properties at a time, pulling in, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars between them, man. I mean, it's insane what this guy's doing. But wow. I mean, he's got an addiction for watches. He's a good friend of mine. He's a mentor, man. He's like, man, I love these watches, bro. I think he paid $35,000 for a watch. I was like, what? I mean, I wear an Apple Watch, but listen, look, I'm not saying I'm more, I'm more holier than thou than anybody. If I go, I'm not addicted to that. Dude, everybody's got their own thing. I'm trying to think. I'm like, what am I addicted to? And I was like, I know what that is. I like shoes. I like a lot of, I got about 35 pairs of shoes. Most of them have been free because I'll purchase like food through Whole Foods or whatever, and they give me 3% back. But I'm not going to spend $150 on a pair of shoes. I'm going to wait until my Whole Foods card or my Apple Pay card says, you now have $185, Mr. Rash. You can go in and get yourself a free pair of shoes. Yes, I knew shopping for all that organic stuff was going to get me a free pair of shoes. But I mean, that's how it is, right? I mean, hey, look, if I'm going to shop at Whole Foods and get paid for it, I'm going to get what I want for it. But I'd say that's probably my thing. If I'm going to get something, it's going to be shoes, man.
I'm now going to go to the absolute contrary of what I just said, right? So this then gets interesting, and we're kind of going off topic, so I'll spin it back after this.
Man.
But
I think this whole thing's been off topic. But
like clothing, I'll spend a little bit of money on clothing. So like I will spend more but less often. And I did in 2020, I was like, I'm not going to buy any new items of clothing this year, and I did it. I didn't buy a single new item of clothing all year.
That's good for you, man.
Yeah, and then in 2021, I'm like, cool, I'm going to buy a pair of shorts. I'll go to Lululemon and get shorts, right? I'll spend a little bit more on a t-shirt that's more aligned to kind of the aesthetics and like not mass produced stuff and fast fashion and stuff. And it's really cool. I buy way less. It's more expensive. Like if you compare price, but if you compare price points, it's more expensive. But if you compare like how much you spent in column A versus how much you spent in column B, it's way cheaper. It's just the item's more expensive, but you're buying less of it. So
I love this. Can I jump in on this one?
Yeah, sure.
Because I totally agree with you, man. So I read this article the other day that says poor people buy cheap crap. So they're looking for like how far can I make my dollar go? And rich people always looking for quality. That's it. And my dad, dude, I used to buy IKEA furniture. So whenever I moved, I bought a ton of IKEA furniture. And my dad was like, why are you buying that crap, dude? It's pressed wood crap, right? And I'm like, well, Dad, I only got like $2,800, man, to go furnish my entire house with. Man, I'm talking a bed. I'm talking one of those low riding beds. I'm talking a TV stand, a bed for my daughter, a bed for my son. I'm talking a bookshelf in the living room. All of that for like $2,800, man. I packed up my whole house, bro. And it all fell apart the next year. It all fell apart the next year. But like I'm wearing a $70 t-shirt, but I've had it for 5 years, right? It's a 5-year tee from Lululemon. The only guarantee is, hey, wash it in cold water, air dry it, and it'll look brand new forever. I'm like, I can do that because if I go to Old Navy, and I used to buy graphic tees, man. I'm over that phase. I don't rep anything or anyone's brand on any of my clothing anymore. But this shirt right here, right? I mean, they all look brand new, dude. Like they all look almost brand new. And so it's about quality for me. Yes, I'm just like you, dude. I'm going to spend much more money up front, but I'm saving the time. I'm not having to get frustrated with the clothes looking like garbage. Like, oh man, what's the thing looking like crap days? Right? I'm not having to go back to the store to buy another waiting crowds or order from Amazon or whatever it may be. And I agree with you. I'm not part of that fast fashion thing, man. I mean, hey, listen, let me explain something. Solid colored t-shirts always be in. Always.
There you go. And it's dressing for your age as well. That's where I've got to. I'm like, have to like go monochrome or very like colors.
Dude, that's all I am, bro. Dude, I buy colors in white, black, blue, green, and gray. That's it. That way they all match together, man. Now my shoes are my flair. Let me just say my shoes are my flair. I got flowers on my shoes today. I got these Florida shoes on. I'm not gonna take them off in here because Bella's in here. She might be like, oh my God, your feet stink. But I've got these flowered shoes, right, to represent Florida. So, I love shoes, man. Like that's my thing, but they're not expensive shoes.
So I was going to ask you, so
hit me.
So you must have had that mindset shift in terms of like managing your money or looking at where the money was going or how you relate to it.
I think everybody, so let me just for the audience, let me get a little detail here. And we could probably slice the first part off and we could do it here too, if you want to cut it in segments. I think everyone who wants to get rich is going to go through a phase in their life where they come from no money and they make a lot of money. And in between those phases, from what I've gathered from everyone I know who has gone from being broke to being rich, and I'm not saying rich, like if you're making $1 million a year, then you're doing okay. But you're going to go pass through a couple of phases here. Phase one is you're going to go from like $50,000 a year to like $380,000 a year. And you're going to buy a bunch of shit. I mean, let's just be real, dude. That's part of the game, dude. Like my wife and I, we'd go to the store and we'd spend like $3,000 on dumb shit, man. Like just, that's just how it was, man. I mean, that's just how it was. And income still kept going up. And then, Michael Kors, Louis Vuitton. My wife bought like a pair of $800 shades one time and wound up giving them away to somebody. because they didn't feel right. I bought a pair of Louis Vuittons, but I actually still have mine. And I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, these shades are $700, man. And I was like, but here's the cool thing about it. At the time, I was driving a 2011 Kia Soul, and when I picked them up and I put them on my face, I was like, these are going to go on the dash of my Tesla one day. I still don't own that Tesla, but I like to cast future vision, right? But I mean, I bought a lot of stuff, like a lot of dumb stuff, man. Like everybody I know a guy who took a company from $1 million a year to $200 million a year, and he bought like cars, BMWs, bought that motorcycle that's a 3-wheel, has 2 in the front, 1 in the back, a Can-Am or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? He drove it like twice and said, I'm done with this thing. And like everybody goes through this phase, man. So first of all, you got to get it out of your system. I believe that if you are going to launch yourself into the stratosphere, you're going to spend money on dumb stuff. But eventually you'll get to a point where you're like, you know what? None of this really matters. None of this really matters. Like at the end of the day, me and my wife came to the decision of like, hey, listen, if we lost all of this money or this income stream dried up, what do we have to show for it? Like, what do we have to show for it? And there's so many people that get wealthy that just have literally nothing to show for it. They spend it on cocaine and call girls, literally. And so what I think has to happen is like, I look back and I'm like, I bought a bunch of houses with it, bought a bunch of assets with it. So yeah, I've gotten to that point in my life where I'm just like, none of it really matters. None of that stuff matters. I want to walk into a neighborhood and tell myself, I own that, I own that, I own that, I own that. That makes $700 a month. That makes $1,000 a month. That makes $800 a month. That makes $1,200 a month. That makes 13. That makes 6. That makes 4. You know what I'm saying? That makes me happy, knowing that I'm leaving that to my kids.
Yeah, I really like that. And I read this article, I think it was last week or the week before, about this soccer player called Sadio Mane. And he plays for Liverpool, Premier League, earns 15 million a year or whatever. And they asked him, like, how come your iPhone smashed up? And he tells the story that he's from Senegal, from a very poor area. He worked the fields when he was a kid to be able to play soccer and all that good stuff. And he funds that whole region. And I think that's the next tier, right? Of like, when you've got that money coming in, you can redirect it and you can impact people's lives, and it becomes way cooler than having the latest car or the latest phone or whatever that is. I think that's kind of, for me, that's like, it seems far off, but it seems kind of doable, and it seems like that would be quite fulfilling as well.
Yeah, I mean, I came from nothing, man. Like it's just really important. Like I always keep that in the back of my mind. I'm like, my wife and I came from the trailer park. The most I ever made, I was broke almost all of my adult life. I was making $15 an hour when I was 32 years old, trying to support a family of 4. Every dollar, I know how much it means. And, you know, so when I worked for a CEO, it took a company from 1 million to 200 million. I learned from him that every dollar matters. Every single dollar matters. If you're flippant with $10, you'll be flippant with 100. If you're loosey goosey with 100, you'll be loose. Well, you know, it's $150, $200, whatever. Or you'll lose like $50,000 and you'll be like, oh my gosh, or 10,000 or 100,000. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And it's these habits that we build in our mind, man. So the other day, we were going on top of Pikes Peak a few months ago, and we couldn't go, needed a refund. I had to call them. And they only gave me back half. And I was like, hey, listen, you know, it was $600 to go up this mountain. You've given me back 300. I need to get the other 300. I think there may have been a typo in your system. And my son's sitting here watching me. And they were like, oh, yes, sir, Mr. Rash, not a problem, not a problem. And I think there was another $20 change fee there as well. Yes, sir, I see that too. We'll refund that too. I hang up and my son was like, every dollar matters, doesn't it, Dad? And I said, absolutely. Every dollar matters, kid.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's one thing that I've kind of got quite militant about in my old age, which is like demanding value for money and not standing for like letting people waste my time or my money. And that's kind of an interesting place to be. In terms of seeing the opportunities to invest, and like you've been, you know, accruing single family homes, renting them out, to say it's a simple process or a simple strategy does it a disservice, because I think there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of complexity, but the fundamentals are you put families in houses, in communities they want to live in, and that's really cool. Plus you make money off of it, which is really cool. How did that shift kind of come about, rather than I'm going to grind at a business and I'm going to grind at a W-2 and try and make more money? And I know you went through the sales piece and the kind of marketing piece. So how did that kind of fit together with your journey in money?
Yeah. So when me and my wife started making money, we, we've been entrepreneurs, and we have, we went from, we've tried so many businesses, almost lost our house in September of 2015. And, whenever you're grinding, most entrepreneurs that start a journey are still in a job. If they stop working, they stop making money. And my father passed away in June of 2020. And he said to me before he passed away, he said, "Hey, you're making some money. You're making a little bit of money. Put that money to work. Put it in something. Buy real estate." And man, my God, if I had just listened to him, I thought I was a unicorn stock picker, so I put it in stocks. Lost 26 grand in 8 minutes, just like that, man. It was unbelievable. And I was like, okay, maybe I should listen to my dad and listen to what he was trying to tell me and get that money working for me in real estate. And that's what it was. I just wanted to make money without having to lift a finger. It doesn't mean that I was lazy, and it doesn't mean that I didn't want to work. I just wanted to make money without lifting a finger, man. So like if something does happen, I'm able to have an asset. I'm able to take my money and put it to work and almost guarantee no matter what Elon Musk tweets, I'm still going to make money. No matter what happens in the markets, I'm still going to make money. And the biggest return on attention, right, is just it's at the same time I realized I was making a lot of money. I was like, I just got to put it to work, John. I just got to put it to work. And so real estate just seemed like the only play that was going to work, man. I mean, it just put me in a box. God just put me in a box and said, "Hey, man, invest here, help some people out along the way, help them get in a home, and let's roll with it. And I'll help you out, man." It's been a great journey ever since.
And that's what I think. That's kind of the long and roundabout houses way of kind of how I've tried to position. First of all, what I did way back when I bought my first property, but then moving to the States is money is energy, and I know that sounds really kooky, but money also has inertia. So by putting your money into something and then it's paying you back or it's doing something, there's like energy and inertia there, and it's going to keep going forward. Whereas when you put it into a single object, it kind of stops. And it kind of there's entropy, right? You buy the new iPhone this year, and you in a year's time you say, "I'm going to buy the new one. I'm going to sell the old one." That old one is now worth less money. You're going to put it on eBay and sell it for less than you. And I'm not saying don't buy an iPhone. I'm just saying there's that ebb and flow of money and kind of the other thing that helped me, and this is kind of early strategies, is like I said earlier, where is my money? Where is on paper?
Yeah.
Where is my money? Right. I built a spreadsheet, and it detailed it had all across the top in the columns. Here's all the credit card money I owe or debts I owe. Here's the stocks I own and crypto and whatever else and assets and some investments I've made. Here's the property, and here's where the values are at the moment. And so here at the end of it, here's basically my net worth. Here's cash we have, and then here's my net worth. And just by doing that, I could see this is where everything is. And then you dig into like, well, what am I spending X on? Or what this credit card grew by $200 this month. What on? Oh, I went for dinner here. Oh, okay. I should look at this or that, or do I want to spend somewhere else? Or and even to the point of like, are these credit products working for me? Are they the things I should be using, or should I, like I said, I started with like the junior I'm bad at spending credit card. And I had that for a long time. And then I realized I should be getting an Amex Platinum. I should be getting rewards, not whatever this thing is that I got to pay every month. So just by doing that really helped. And we were able to kind of look at where things are and where our money was going. But that aligned with the paying yourself first. That's the kind of secret sauce. I think, Jason, the other thing you touched on is the side hustle piece. And the reason I was apprehensive about that is because I think everyone has the ability to earn more money.
100.
And I don't necessarily mean in some creative, you need to take a course and seller financing or wholesaling, or I don't think it has to be that complicated. Most people are good at their jobs. Can you earn more money? Can you ask for a raise? And you said at the moment raises are hard to get, but is there someone else paying more? Is there an industry you can pivot to, or is there a job you can pivot to? What are the trends? So I think that the case in point is during lockdown, I worked from home. During lockdown, I was busy, but I know people that went in and retrained as coders, and they learned to code in 2 years. and they went back into the workforce with a seriously powerful toolbox of skills to go in and earn some money.
Yeah, no, I listen, I agree with you, man. I think everybody has the capacity to make more money. I'm gonna re-say that again real quick for a reel. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna record a reel. No, man, I agree with you 100%. I believe everybody has the capacity to make more money. I just don't think that most people want it. I think they just think somehow something's gonna happen. Their boss is going to give them a raise, or something's going to turn around, or the economy is going to turn around. But I mean, it goes back to what we talked about, right? Like everybody wants it. And here's the thing, guys, like money is power. It's power. It's not power over somebody else, but having a lots of money and making lots of money gives you power, and power for you, because money gives you choices. Without choices, you are powerless on this planet. It's just like the whole thing goes, right? He who has the money has the power, or something like that. But what you have to understand is whenever you don't have choices, you make irrational decisions. Whenever you don't have choices, you make emotional decisions about your life and the direction of your life. Many people that lose jobs these days, they get in a position where they have shackled themselves to that job. They unexpectedly lose that job, and they have to take a job for less money, or in an area that's or desirable, or a career path, or do something that they really don't want to do. But if they have money, they can step back, and they could have stepped back and left before they got fired, number one. Or they could take a job and, hey, you know what? I want to go work on this business. And that's what people are missing, man. That like the new iPhone's not going to buy you, the new car's not going to buy you, the new house isn't going to buy you. It's not going to fill that void that so many people walking around have, John. They don't have choices, and they know it. And they know that they're on this ticking time clock wheel of like, okay, am I going to get fired? Am I going to go, is the economy going to go bad? Am I going to lose my house, or rent's going to go up, or rate's going to go up? They don't know. They have no idea. They're just on this wheel, and they don't ever make money their priority. If most people made money their priority and like studied it, like how do I grow it? How do I make more? How do I invest it? How do I save it? And this world would be I really believe that so many people would not be living on the edge so much in life. They wouldn't be so quick to pop off at somebody because they're suffering internally, financially, and they're too scared to tell anybody, or too embarrassed, or too ashamed to tell anybody of the choices that they have or haven't made.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I think I'm going to put it in a slightly softer way of money.
Sorry, I'm a little direct, man.
No, I like it. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but it gives you options, right? Is the famous or one of the famous quotes. I don't know who said it, so I guess not that famous. But that's kind of what the driver is, and I think what we find is, for me, money's often a dirty word, or it's people don't want to talk about it, and it goes back to school, right? It goes back to education, that I wasn't taught how to look at your accounts and figure out, oh, this is where my money's going, and I probably should do this, this, and this. One question I did want to ask you was, and we probably touched upon this in the last interview, but specifically around money, is like, how do you guys goal set?
What do you mean?
So like my wife and I, we talk about the future a lot. We haven't really sat down and had a conference and said, what do we want to do? What's our 5-year? What's our 10-year? But we're largely on the whole in terms of, we like to travel. So that's a priority. We don't want to be slaves to a W-2 for the rest of our lives. More so me than my wife, to be fair to her. She loves her career and she's very good at it. But we have kind of these tiers, or these kind of ideas of like, well, we'd quite like all of our outgoings to be covered by investment properties or investment vehicles, right? So how do you kind of get on the same page with the wife, or game plan, or what does that look like?
So, that's the biggest question that I get from so many people. And my wife, we've been married 20 years, man. And, I'll be honest with you, there's ups and downs. Like right now, today I had a down, man. I did something to upset my wife, and she's like, don't talk to me. Right. I mean, that's just how it is.
It's bad when it's that.
It is. Whenever I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. Are you okay? Yeah. It's just like, oh my God, I got to get out of this. But I'm going to go buy her some flowers after I get out of this.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm going to go buy her a nice bouquet of flowers. But no, we go. So for instance, I like to do, my wife is, I think and I'm just speaking on marriages here, okay? Like how marriage people goal set, or how I goal set within my marriage. Number one, because I got a lot of things that I want to do. My wife is a visionary. She has ideas for businesses, multiple businesses. Like she's come up with ideas for a couple $100 million worth of businesses. And the problem is, A, I don't have enough capital, and B, I don't have enough energy to just build all those businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to focus. Number one, like what's going to move the needle? So like right now we're getting into podcasting. We found this podcasting studio that's near our house. It's about 2 miles away. I'm in it right now. And number one, if we're going to be entrepreneurs, we have to grow three things as an entrepreneur, right? We have to grow our mindset, our skill set, and our network. How fast can we grow our network? Like, so we committed, me and her talked about it before we moved here to Florida, that, hey, what do we want to spend 80% of our money and 80% of our time on this year? Networking. I want to go social. I want to go emails. I want to go YouTube. I want to go Facebook ads, and I want to go podcasting. That's what we decided to spend our money on. And so what it boils down to is like, hey, let's do this. Like, what's the one thing that's going to move the needle for the next 12 years? Well, next 12 months, what do we want to commit to? A podcast. So that's what we're committing to. We're not going to commit to like 72 different things at once, man. And that's why I do the single family homes. So many people knock me for doing the single family homes. They're like, you're not making a lot of money. You can't do this. And I'm like, I don't think you understand that I actually run other companies. And so I can't like be more actively involved in, like, I can't do a flip. I can't do a BRRRRRRR. I can't do one of those.
You had
right?
one too many R there, Jason.
I think I did have one too many R's, but I can't do all that stuff because I'm not saying I can't, but I'm saying right now I can make far more money faster in our businesses whenever I increase the income over there than I ever will in a BRR, like ever. And so I make way more money doing that. And in the real estate, this passive, dude. So I can like sit in this podcast studio. I can talk to you. I can grow a business over there. I can go do this. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that. And so every single year, we talked about it. One of our goals is we want to grow a business. Every single year, we want to birth a brand new business that's passive income. One way or another, it's going to be passive income. So this year is going to be my real estate investing course. We sold for like a month. We marketed it, made like $20,000. Super cool. I took all that money and reinvested it. Now we're building a back-end evergreen webinar system that's going to push the whole thing out through Facebook ads. And that costs money. But I took all the money that I made, not all the money, but I took a lot of the money that I made and just reinvested it. So many people would have been like, oh my God, now I have $20,000. What can I do with it? I'm like, dude, if I don't use that money to like leverage something, I'm going to have to go out and push. Again, push, right? I want to be able to push, but I want to have something pushing alongside of me without my own effort. That's the beauty of Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube videos. Yeah, it costs money, but what the hell else is money for? You know what I mean?
And that's the energy, that's the inertia of money, right? The cycle of that 20K.
So much of it.
And then when it comes back at 100,
yeah, it'll come back again as 100K, and it'll come back again as 200K. Make 200K in a month. I told my wife, I said, listen, look, if I can make $20,000 in a month with my own push, I know for a fact, if you give me a timeline and a runway long enough, I can make $25,000 evergreen. I know I can. I know for a fact there's far too many people interested in single family homes. They're far too interested in real estate, number one. And number two, the gateway for 99.9% of people in this world that come into real estate are going to come into it through a single family home. I mean, that's just the facts, right? So if I can make $25,000 evergreen, I can make $250,000. After that, it's just constant reinvestment until you hit the $250,000 goal. You can probably take a little off the table, but again, it goes back to delayed gratification. I haven't spent a penny of the $20,000 on myself. I haven't even bought myself a t-shirt. I literally am just reinvesting every single bit of it, right? But here's the thing. I know me and I'm betting on me. I know I'm going to be able to turn that money. And that's the thing that it takes to build a business, John. That's the thing that it takes with money is like we talked about from this whole entire podcast is like delayed gratification, the mindset and the skill set, right? I'm growing the mindset. Like I have a bigger vision for my money. I'm growing the skill set. We're going to learn Facebook ads. I'm hiring people to do all this other stuff. And then we're going to grow the network. Bam, we're doing the podcast. So that's that, man. That's how you do it. That's how you build a multi-business. That's exactly the formula for $1 million business.
I like it. And one a year. I can't wait to follow this journey. It's going to be exciting to see.
Great. Yeah, it's going to be great, brother. It's going to be fantastic, man. And what I want to know is, man, can I touch on one thing for the audience real quick?
Of course.
What you said, you mentioned something about landlording, about being a landlord, like being a landlord and stuff like that. And a lot of people think like a landlord is a negative connotation. They have like negative vibes or negative emotions around it or feelings around it. And what I want to address here on this podcast is that people need to like reframe their mind around landlords. Like so many people don't want to get into real estate because they don't want people to look at them because they think they're going to be one of those sleazy overlords, slumlords, right? The way I see it is most people that have my rentals out of the 16 that we have, Everybody that has one of ours is A, they couldn't qualify because of credit or income, number one. Number two, they're moving to the area for a job and they don't want to buy a house. I've never priced anyone out. I'm not leaving anyone else out of the market. This is just the facts of real estate, and I'm able to provide a service. So we need to kind of move past that negative connotation of landlording out there and get into real estate investing and help these people out because they need to roof over their heads too.
You're also investing in communities, right? So it's you know, by taking a house and making it pretty and, you know, improving the asset and bringing in families, you're contributing to the community. I know that. I agree. The dirty word of landlord is thrown around. There's a balance there. It's difficult, right? But the private sector solves the public sector problems around housing. So what happens 100. If that all disappears, right? So there's
socialism.
Yeah. Well, no, because
unless
you're going to take houses through mandatory purchasing, then how would you even go about that, I guess? But that's a whole nother conversation. Jason,
absolutely, man.
This has been a random all around money conversation, and I think I'm here for it. I enjoyed it.
John, I want to say thank you, man, for having me on, man. You know, this is great. Like, you're fantastic. You really, really do come up with some great questions. And I've been interviewed by a lot of people, man, and I really enjoy it. I'm like, okay, what's he going to ask me? He's thinking about something. He's writing it down. This is going to be good. We're going to go off on a tangent on this. So I love to talk about money, man. And I definitely want to, you know, I definitely want to have you on our podcast.
Of course.
We start our podcast. So I'm going to open the invitation up for you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
We're launching it here in the next, you know, like a little bit. And then whenever we get rolling, brother, we're going to roll, and I'll have you on with some others too as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how can people connect with your course?
Yeah, sure. Just go to jasonrash.com and you can find me there. Or if you really want to get invested in real estate, you know what, hot damn, I love what this guy's saying. Go to howtospotadeal.com. That's howtospotadeal.com, and you can grab my real estate investing course. And here's the deal. If you actually mention that you bought this from going through John's show, I'll hop on a 30-minute call with you, a strategy call, and help you get everything ready to roll.
Yeah, and check out Jason's Instagram as well. There's tons of really good content. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm saying just it's not like Pink Sunset 77 or anything, man. It's Jason Rash on Facebook and on Instagram. That's RASH.
Oh, now I want Pink Sunset 77. I think that's quite a good. Was that your previous one?
That was my. Don't tell anybody, man. That was my previous one. I'm always making fun of myself whenever I say that.
No, look. Here's the deal, right? When you meet people like Jason, and I speak to a lot of people. I speak to a lot of people on Instagram. They're like, yeah, well, come on the show, and never speak to them again. And there's certain levels of Instagram followers, and Jason has that sweet spot that he clearly knows his stuff. He has a broad appeal and a quite a big audience, but not big enough to like just go, well, just, you know, here's a pre-filled form, go and email me like that. You can speak to him. You can, if you comment on one of his posts, he'll comment back. I value that. I think that's great. So thanks, Jason. Really appreciate it, mate.
Thanks. Man, I love it, man. I thank you so much for saying that. I love talking to people like, dude, I just moved here from Colorado. In Colorado, I lived in $1 million home, but it was on the side of a mountain, man. And nobody would ever come and visit me. I'm like, it's not that far, dude. Come on out. And I drove the truck 4 days in a moving truck. And I'm like, damn, this is really far, you know? Like, I can't believe I lived this far away, man. And so I was on the side of a mountain. Nobody would ever come and visit me. But now that I'm here, bro, I'm rolling around and talking to everybody. So if you guys comment on my stuff, you can best believe it ain't going to be a bot. It ain't going to be a VA. It's going to be Jason Rash commenting all up in your DMs. Let's go.
Jason, thank you so much today, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you for listening to the Investories Podcast. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories Podcast.